Have you ever had someone treat you like you're invisible, only to come running when they need something? That's exactly what happened when my daughter-in-law showed up at my door after losing everything. What I did next shocked everyone. Margaret stood at her kitchen window, watching the morning sun filter through the lace curtains of her suburban home. At 62, she had built a comfortable life after retiring from her successful career as a human resources director. The doorbell rang, interrupting her peaceful coffee ritual. She opened the door to find Jessica, her daughter-in-law, standing on the porch. Jessica's designer clothes looked rumpled, her usually perfect makeup was smudged, and her eyes were red from crying. Margaret's surprise was genuine. Jessica hadn't voluntarily visited in the 3 years since she'd married Margaret's son David. "Jessica, what's wrong?" Margaret asked, concern overriding years of cold shoulders and backhanded comments. Jessica's voice cracked. "I need to talk to you. Can I come in?" Margaret stepped aside, her mind racing. Jessica had made her feelings clear from day one. She thought Margaret was overbearing, old-fashioned, and interfering. Every family dinner had been torture, with Jessica making snide remarks about Margaret's cooking, her decor, her opinions. David had begged his mother to ignore it, saying Jessica was just strong-willed. In the living room, Jessica collapsed onto the sofa. "I got fired yesterday," she blurted out. "The company downsized and I was let go." "Margaret, I know we haven't. I know things have been difficult between us, but I need help. I heard you still have connections in HR. I need a job." Margaret sat across from her, processing this moment. The woman who had rolled her eyes at every piece of advice, who had excluded her from planning her own son's wedding, who had made sure Margaret knew she wasn't wanted. That woman was now asking for help. Margaret poured tea, buying herself time to think. Memories flooded back. The engagement party where Jessica had announced to everyone that she finally got David away from his clingy mother. The holidays when Jessica insisted they celebrate at her parents' house instead. The grandchild conversations where Jessica made it clear Margaret's opinions on parenting wouldn't be welcome. "Jessica," Margaret began carefully, "I want to understand. You've made it very clear over the years that you don't value my input or my presence. Why come to me now?" Jessica's face flushed. "I'm desperate, okay? My savings are almost gone. Rent is due. I've applied everywhere but the market is brutal right now. You know people. You could make a phone call and then what?" Margaret interrupted, her voice steady. "Make a phone call and risk my professional reputation on someone who can't even be civil to me at family dinners." Jessica's eyes widened. She clearly hadn't expected resistance. "You're David's mother. Don't you want to help your son? If I can't find work, it'll affect him too." Margaret felt the manipulation in those words. Jessica had always been skilled at using David as a shield, but something in Margaret had shifted. Years of swallowing hurt feelings, of being the bigger person, of excusing bad behavior for the sake of peace. It had taken its toll. "I do want to help David," Margaret said quietly, "but I also want to help myself, and helping myself means not accepting disrespect anymore." Jessica's desperation grew more visible. "What do you want from me? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. There, I apologized. Now will you help me?" Margaret shook her head. The hollow apology only reinforced her decision. "That's not how this works, Jessica. Real change doesn't come from a forced apology when you need something." "Then what do you want?" Jessica's voice rose, frustration breaking through. Margaret considered carefully. She thought about her own business, a small consulting firm she'd started in retirement, helping companies with HR issues. She'd been considering hiring an assistant, someone to handle scheduling, client communications, and basic administrative work. An idea formed. "I'll offer you a job," Margaret said finally. "Working for me at my consulting firm. Entry-level position, assistant work. The pay is modest but fair." Jessica's face showed her shock. "You want me to work for you?"
Yes.
"You'd handle my calendar, client emails, filing, research, whatever I need. It's honest work, and it would give you income while you look for something in your field." Jessica's expression cycled through disbelief, indignation, and calculation. "What's the catch?" "No catch. But understand this, if you work for me, you work for me. That means respecting me as your employer. No eye-rolling, no dismissive comments, no telling David how terrible it is. Professional behavior, or you're done." The room fell silent. Margaret could see Jessica's internal struggle, pride versus necessity. The woman who had spent years treating her like an annoyance now had to consider being her employee. Jessica accepted the job. What choice did she have? The first week was uncomfortable for both of them. Jessica arrived Monday morning at Margaret's home office, her expression a mix of resentment and forced politeness. Margaret assigned her tasks, organizing client files, scheduling appointments, researching labor law updates. Simple work, but work that needed doing. She watched Jessica struggle with the humility of it, answering to someone she dismissed for years. On Wednesday, Jessica made a mistake, double booking 2 important client calls. When Margaret pointed it out, Jessica's old defensiveness flared. "I'm still learning your system. Maybe if you explain things better." "Stop," Margaret said firmly. "In a professional environment we take responsibility for our errors. Try again." Jessica's jaw clenched. Margaret could see her fighting the urge to lash out. Finally, through gritted teeth, "You're right. I made a mistake. I'll fix it and make sure it doesn't happen again." It wasn't gracious, but it was progress. By Friday, something unexpected happened. A client called with a complex question about harassment policies. Margaret was on another call, so Jessica took a message. But instead of just jotting down notes, Jessica, drawing on her own corporate experience, drafted a preliminary response with relevant policy suggestions. When Margaret reviewed it, she was impressed. "This is good work, Jessica, really good." Jessica looked genuinely surprised by the praise. "Thank you," she said quietly. 3 weeks in, David came to visit his mother. He found Jessica at the desk, efficiently managing Margaret's calendar while juggling a client email. He looked between them, clearly expecting tension. "How's it going?" he asked cautiously. "Your mother is a good boss," Jessica said, and Margaret heard something new in her voice. Respect. Tough, but fair. After David left, Jessica stayed behind. "Can I talk to you?" she asked Margaret. They sat in the living room again, like that first day. But the atmosphere was different. "I owe you a real apology," Jessica began. "Not the desperate one I gave you before. A real one. I treated you terribly, Margaret. I was threatened by you, by how capable you are, by how much David loves you. I thought if I kept you at arm's length, I'd matter more to him. It was insecure and cruel, and I'm sorry." Margaret felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you for saying that. This job," Jessica continued, "working with you, I've learned more about you in 3 weeks than I did in 3 years. You're brilliant at what you do. Your clients respect you, and you've been patient with me when you had every right not to be." "I wasn't going to let you fail," Margaret said. "Not when I could help." "Why?" Jessica asked. "After everything." Margaret smiled. "Because that's what family does." "But Jessica, family also means mutual respect. I couldn't keep accepting how you treated me. Setting that boundary was as important as offering help." 2 months later, Jessica landed an interview at a prestigious company. One of Margaret's former colleagues had recommended her based on Margaret's reference. The night before the interview, Jessica came to Margaret's house for dinner. "I'm nervous," Jessica admitted over Margaret's homemade lasagna, the same lasagna she'd once criticized as too heavy.
"You'll do great,"
Margaret assured her. "You're talented, hard-working, and you've learned to be humble. That's a powerful combination." Jessica reached across the table and squeezed Margaret's hand. "If I get this job, I want you to know, I'm not just going to disappear. I want to keep having dinners like this. I want to actually be your daughter-in-law, not just the woman who married your son." Margaret squeezed back. "I'd like that." Jessica got the job. She excelled at it, drawing on everything she'd learned, both from her past experience and from her time working with Margaret. She and Margaret developed a genuine friendship, one built on mutual respect rather than obligation. At family dinners now, Jessica asked for Margaret's recipes. She sought her advice on work challenges. She included her in conversations and decisions, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. One Sunday, as they cleaned up after dinner together, Jessica said, "You know what's funny? I spent years trying to keep David away from you because I thought you were controlling. Turns out, you were the opposite. You just wanted respect, and you were willing to help me even when I didn't deserve it." Margaret smiled. "You deserved a chance. Everyone does. You just needed to be willing to take it, even if it meant swallowing your pride." "Best thing I ever swallowed," Jessica laughed. "Sometimes the people who challenge us the most end up teaching us the greatest lessons." Has someone you clashed with ever become important to you? Have you had to swallow your pride to accept help? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you've navigated difficult relationships. And remember, setting boundaries isn't about being cruel. It's about creating space for genuine respect to grow.